Ever wonder how men in the dead of World War II managed to survive bone-cracking cold without modern gear? No fancy thermal sleeping bags, no down jackets, no Gore-Tex, just grit, genius, and a level of resourcefulness that would humble even today's top-tier survival experts. What these soldiers figured out in the trenches, forests, and frozen wastelands of Europe could literally change how you think about cold weather forever. Welcome back to the Forgotten War Fronts, where lost history meets survival mastery. Today, we're pulling back the frostbitten curtain on the cold weather hacks of World War II soldiers. Techniques born from desperation, refined by necessity, and proven in some of the harshest conditions ever endured by man. When temperatures on the Eastern Front plummeted to -40 degrees Celsius, survival wasn't about bravery. It was about biology, ingenuity, and adaptation. Soldiers weren't fighting just the enemy. They were waging war against nature itself. There were no luxury tents or insulated mats. Supplies froze. Metal turned brittle. Frostbite wasn't a risk. It was a certainty if you didn't outthink the cold. What soldiers discovered was simple but revolutionary. Warmth didn't come from what you had, but from how you used it. The real battle was fought not with weapons, but with wisdom. Forget the myth that more layers equal more warmth. World War II soldiers learned fast that warmth depends on air, not fabric. They mastered what we now call the layering paradox. By trapping small pockets of air between thin layers, often using wool, paper, or even straw, they created insulation that rivaled modern thermal gear. One soldier might stuff newspapers under his uniform. Another would wrap cloth scraps around his feet or hands to hold in body heat. It looked crude, but it worked. The air trapped inside those makeshift layers acted as a thermal barrier, slowing heat loss dramatically. And then there was communal warmth. Entire squads would huddle together under coats, using shared body heat as a furnace. It wasn't just camaraderie, it was survival science at its purest. Forget high-tech tents. Trenches were the original microclimates. Soldiers learned that even shallow dugouts could trap warmth from the earth itself. By burrowing below wind level, they cut exposure to freezing air currents. Some built low walls of snow or dirt around their shelters to block the relentless wind. That simple trick could raise internal temperatures by several degrees. Then came the genius of the hot rock heater. Soldiers would heat stones by the fire, then bury them under bedding or near their feet before sleeping. The rocks slowly released heat through the night, creating natural radiators that stayed warm for hours. When fuel was scarce, they'd improvise stoves from metal cans, using a mix of candle wax, oil, and cloth for a controlled flame. It was rudimentary, yes, but in a world where fire meant life, these inventions were priceless. Now, here's where science met strategy. Soldiers discovered that food could be as powerful as fire. High-fat diets weren't a luxury, they were a necessity. Fat burns slowly, generating sustained internal heat and energy. Rations were often loaded with animal fat, butter, or lard to keep men's core temperatures up in the brutal cold. And forget the myth that drinking less keeps you warmer. The smartest soldiers knew hydration was key. Water helps regulate internal temperature and keeps blood flowing to extremities. Vital when you're battling frostbite. You know, hot food and drink also carried a psychological edge. A mug of something warm wasn't just comfort. It was morale in liquid form. It reminded men they were still human, still alive, still fighting. Here's where history turns practical. You don't need a battlefield to use these hacks. Heading out camping, trapped in a power outage? Remember the World War II wisdom. Create air layers, not just fabric layers. Use natural materials like wool or even paper to trap warmth. Build windbreaks if you're camping in the open. A few feet of snow, branches or tarps can make a massive difference. And if you've got access to stones or bricks, heat them safely by the fire and use them like ancient heating batteries. Eat right, don't skimp on fats in extreme cold. Butter, nuts, oils, they're your secret heat source. And stay hydrated even when you don't feel thirsty. Your body's internal furnace runs on fuel and fluid. These tricks weren't theoretical. They saved lives, thousands of them. They're the reason so many soldiers made it through nights that by all logic, no human should have survived. What's remarkable about these soldiers wasn't just their endurance, it was their creativity. Out of starvation, cold and scarcity, they engineered survival systems that modern outdoor brands now sell for hundreds of dollars. Without knowing it, they laid the foundation for everything from thermal layering science to modern bivouac design. So, next time you're out in the cold, whether it's a snowed-in campsite or a power outage, remember the men who faced winters without hope of comfort and still managed to beat the freeze. Their lessons are more than history. They're survival blueprints. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't let it disappear into the frost. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment about which hack surprised you most, and share this video with anyone who thinks surviving the cold is just about the right gear. Because sometimes the smartest survival tool isn't in your backpack. It's in your head.